Good morning, everyone. This is a very raw video. It's 5:30 in the morning. It's normally around the time that I get up. I've walked the dog. I've made myself some coffee, which I'm almost finished, and I had an idea to drink some more coffee. I thought to myself last night, I really would like to go through all of the books that I've bought for PDFs that I've purchased or found of interest. And I thought, what should you have in your library that I think that you should have as, say, kind of or core OSR books? As I said, it's no frills, not shaved, not dressed, not washed. My hair, which I hate going out in public without fancy washed up look. So this is very much me just talking to you saying, hey, come into my den very early in the morning. Let's do some show and tell. So I thought, what would be cool? Other people have kind of showed their libraries and stuff, and I thought, how should I do this? So let's run through as fast as possible the games that I've purchased. Like, I've actually bought the book because I've been so impressed, and I think that you should really consider buying these books to support not only the artist, the creator, whatever you want to call them, but also as a library, as a let's build your library, and let's compare it to food. Let's go. Mothership. Mothership, to me, is just one of those games that if you don't have in your collection, you're really not serving yourself well. So Mothership, absolutely excellent sci-fi game. I cannot speak highly enough. I'm sad that I missed the Kickstarter. I purchased a bunch of books without the Kickstarter, and frankly, it probably would have been cheaper for me to so if you can be a late backer, support the brand new stuff. Mothership is kind of like Blumenthal. If you know anything about cooking, you know that Blumenthal was a cook in the 90s, 2000s, maybe a little bit later, who did a lot of kind of foods where you'd foam them and present them in just such a beautiful way. But it was done so precisely that the meals were like essence of foie gras, and you'd have a little tiny bit of steak, but it was just perfect, and everything on the plate was just designed fantastically. This is like one of those super fancy 5-star restaurant meals. Absolutely fantastic, but think of, foamed peas or essence of asparagus. That's Mothership. Troika. Troika is just this small little thing with bizarre pictures, a bizarre worldview. It is so evocative that I had to have it in my collection. I don't like spending tons of money on too many resources, but this was just too compelling to get. What's it like? Troika is Troika's kind of like having I don't know. It's kind of like having a very satisfying borscht with sour cream on it, with that bright purple and that cabbage. There's something just absolutely kind of filling and and just kind of comfort foody about Troika, but you look at the color and you look at that bright pink and you look at that kind of stark white sour cream in the middle and you're like, oh my gosh, what am I about to have? It's it's purple and it's made with beets and it's going to cause me to fart afterwards. This is an awesome game. You should have it. Borscht. Old School Essentials. Old School, I've just purchased a DMG, a first edition, a DMG. This will have been my 5th time of buying it because I've gotten rid of it. I've sold it because of the satanic scare. Though this isn't a D&D, this is within those realms. I would say that Old School Essentials is kind of like having oatmeal. It's great. It's going to satisfy you. It's going to satisfy you. It's going to fill you up. It's just something that is kind of, there's something very warming to it. There's something very nice, but I find that it's plain. I find that it's just not, it's not something that I want to kind of constantly be with. Even though I'm an old school gamer, I just look at it and I say to myself, I really like it, and I know it's good for me. And there's something satisfying about putting some brown sugar onto it, and it's got loads of goodness. It's oatmeal. I think maybe if I look at AD&D, which I don't have yet, first edition, AD&D is kind of like cream of wheat. Actually, you know what? No. Second edition is cream of wheat. I grew up with cream of wheat every friggin' day when I was growing up. So cream of wheat is the is second edition for sure. You know, there's no crunch. It's plain white, and it's been sterilized of everything. Okay, so this is and I love it in a way. I know it's good for me. But if given bacon and eggs versus oatmeal, I choose the bacon and eggs. That's why I'm 240 pounds. Iron Sword. I have Delve. I've got Starforge coming up. It should be arriving sometime. I've got all the PDFs. Ironforge. It's free. Ironforge, if I'm thinking about a food type, Ironforge is like spaghetti and a good solid meat sauce. It's just so satisfying. You can consume it and you don't have to worry about splashing your face all over with tomato sauce. You slurp it up if you want to. Don't friggin' cut with a knife and fork your spaghetti. Just, no, you're dead to me. That's what it is. It's just a wonderful, satisfying meal that can be a mess. And what I mean by that is, you think to yourself, oh, well, there's not that many options and stuff like that, you know, or there are options. There are a lot of options, and those options can really make you think, and it can be a hot mess. But again, it's so satisfying, and it's so tasty, and you may not order it on a menu, but if you're on your own, you're going to eat that spaghetti and meat sauce. Spaghetti and meat sauce. Morkborg. I have this one in shrink. It costs $40 Canadian. from a friendly local game store. This has the ENI Award winner of best writing, best layout, best design, best game, best product of the year, Morkborg. I have a second copy. I bought 2 copies. That's how much I love this game. Morkborg. Let's think of a really good food type. I didn't write this down. It's too early in the friggin' morning. Morkborg is... I had this great analogy before, or a great simile before. Morkborg is like having blood sausage. Okay? If you haven't had blood pudding, you are denying yourself something great. There's nothing better at an English breakfast than having the blood sausage or the blood pudding. Blood pudding is so tasty and so wonderful, but at first it freaks you out because you look at it and you're like, holy shit, I'm about to eat fried blood. It's gory. It's so simple, but it freaks you out at first. And yet, if you have it, you're going to be like, oh, wow, I am so damn happy that I got this because it was a surprise. And it's got gore. And if you're hardcore and you're metal, you should have Morkborg. It is the blood sausage. It's the blood sausage of games. Oh my goodness. Index card, RPG. This isn't the latest version, and I'm not sure if I'm going to get the latest version. I may not. Hankerin has done such a great job on the drawings and on the way that he's presented it. It's absolutely great. His concept of just throwing up an image on an index card, throwing it out on the table and just playing it. This is just fantastic. What's it like for food? Okay, this is the SpaghettiOs of role-playing. This is the SpaghettiOs. This is the canned SpaghettiOs, or the Chef Boyardee ravioli. It's a wonderful kids' meal. You're gonna consume it. It's a quick on-the-road trip. You know, I need something. I'm just gonna grab myself something quick and easy. I've got to get out, or I don't have the time, or I don't have the energy late in the evening, or it might be even later in the evening and you've already eaten about 4 times and you just want to kind of consume something simple. It's wonderful. It's imaginative, but it's also, so maybe it's more like those canned spaghetti pasta type things. Well, maybe not spaghetti, but it's the canned pasta thing where it has the rocket ships and the alphabet and stuff like that. That's what this is, but it's got meat in it. Now you know that it's not prime beef, but again, it's satisfying. It's good. This is the canned pasta of role-playing games. It's great, but you're going to grow up and you're going to want to play other games too. And that's why I say it's like a kid's meal, but it's not. But you're going to want, it's simple, but you're going to want something else. Whitehack. Oh, Whitehack. Whitehack 3rd edition. I didn't get the one with all the blank pages because I thought, why the hell should I pay for all those blank pages? Though I really, really like the orangey red color on the cover, on the dust cover. But Whitehack is it's thinky, and it's just awesome, and I really, really like it. I think that this is an amazing distillation of OSR. And so Whitehack is kind of like, it's certainly more mature. What is Whitehack like? Whitehack is kind of like, I've got it. Whitehack is kind of like cassoulet. Cassoulet is a wonderful French dish that's cooked over time. It's a white bean dish with a wonderful braised meat within it. It's just amazing. It's satisfying. It's filling. It's probably unique. You may not have had cassoulet. It's rich. It's got a bit of thickness, and it will keep you going for a long time. It's got beans in it. You'll have some brain farts. You'll definitely have some brain farts with it. It is satisfying. It is very umami-like, very meaty, and it will make you think, and it will make you get creative. And yet there's a simplicity. You put the beans in, you put the ham in, and you throw it in the oven, and you let it cook for hours and hours. This is something that you're going to put your brain into, and then you're going to really, really think for a long time, because it's complex, and yet it's so simple, so satisfying, and unique. Something that you don't often have. Whitehack, cassoulet. Savage Worlds. Savage Worlds. This is the older deluxe version. This is before Suede. Savage Worlds. Savage Worlds probably is the game that got me into looking beyond D&D. And if I'm looking beyond D&D, I'm looking beyond D&D because I was introduced to something. So this is my first real foray into something different in the modern age. So we're not talking about back with Shadow World or Everway or games way back when that I had Shadowrun. Suede kind of reintroduced me to that kind of, let's look around beyond TSR Wizards of the Coast, blah, blah, blah. What is Savage Worlds like? It's got a little bit of meat. It's definitely got a lot of options, but it gets stale quickly. Savage Worlds is kind of like your Wonder Bread type of sandwich with everything you love on it, whether it's peanut butter and jelly, because it can be very simplistic if you want it to be, to just a ton of deli meat that you have in your fridge. You got some lettuce, you got some mayo, don't tell me you can't put mayo with meat. You can. With mustard. It's kind of like one of those things where you just want to kind of get a quick sandwich into your body. You just can throw everything into it. You're happy. You've made your own choices. You've made your own choices, and you've put it in, and you know what? You're happy with it because you've made it yourself, and you just are like satisfied with that basic Wonder Bread sandwich. Not too fancy. This isn't a Kaiser bun. This isn't mortadella. You're not putting mortadella in there. You're putting your $1.99 ham in it, and maybe you got a little bit fancy, and you put in that pressed turkey too, and you had some tomato, and after a while you know it was starting to it could go bad soon, so you wanted to just consume it quickly. Would you have it every day? No, I don't think so. Does this have legs? Yeah, it has legs if you just want to settle for Wonder Bread sandwiches. It's good. It's satisfying. I like it. I still like it, but I don't want it all the time. Forbidden Lands. Forbidden Lands. I have everything Forbidden Lands, so this is just what I have. So Forbidden Lands, the light should be changing as the sun is getting higher up in the sky. Forbidden Lands is just something that I fell in love with. I think that it's a system that has just so much potential. I haven't played it with a group, played some solo stuff. I really would love to play it more. It's kind of like one of those Moorish type of meals. It's not, it's got some complexity to it as well. And it's just wonderful. A meal or a food type that Forbidden Lands is. You know, I'm looking around and I'm looking at what's coming up and I'm thinking to myself, Forbidden Lands is probably... So we have roast beef every so often when it's on sale, when it's really on sale, during the holidays. But I would not say that this is a holiday book. And so after we've had the roast beef and you know, we've sliced it up, we get the remaining meat because usually we buy a massive one. And I would say that Forbidden Lands is not just shepherd's pie where you get your cheapest regular ground beef and you throw it into the bottom of the pan and then you put some carrots or some, you know, some corn on it. This is roast beef shepherd's pie. This is a roast beef shepherd's pie. And you've cut up that prime rib beef, and you've created something wonderful and tasty with a nice rich sauce, along with corn and carrots. You've gone a little bit extra mile. You've not just mashed the potatoes by bashing them. You've taken potatoes, you've boiled them, you've let them dry out. Then you've added knobs, you've mashed them, and then, and maybe you didn't mash them. Maybe what you did is you put them in a potato press, and you've got this wonderful kind of very thin strands of potato that you've mashed through the wonderful world of culinary equipment, and so you've used your press, your potato press, and you've put it with loving care into the pot and stirred in knobs of butter, about a half a cup. And then you've warmed up some milk and put some white pepper in it. And then you've got your wooden spoon, don't be a heathen. You've got your wooden spoon and you've stirred it constantly and gently added the milk in to really incorporate and swell up. And you put that on top, and then you know what? You've got some paprika. And you've thrown the paprika on it, and you're like, oh, this is not just comfort food. This is comfort food that's elevated to a new next level. And you baked it at 375 for a while. And then what you've done is you've broiled it on top because you got your fork, or maybe you got something even fancier, and you've made marks on it so that the top is just beautiful. This is a great system with great comfort, but there's an elegance to it. I like it. Yeah. Forbidden Lands. prime rib shepherd's pie. All right, Hot Springs Island. Hot Springs Island, I just got convinced that this is just such a great library book. Something that you want to look at, something that you want to have, and something that you're just going to use. I would say that this is the garam masala of ingredients. Hot Springs Island is definitely the garam masala of ingredients. It has a beautiful blend of spices, nutmeg, cloves, coriander, cardamom, cinnamon. It's so flavorful, and it builds your flavor. It's not something you eat on its own. You use it with other things. I know that it's a system, and I know that it's something, but for me, it's not the icing on the cake. That would be too simple, too sweet, maybe even too cloying for your tastes. This is garam masala. This is a mature taste that has a sweetness, but also is so wonderful in savory dishes. Hot Springs Island, garam masala. D&D, 5th edition. I loved 5th edition. I called it the ancestor, or not the ancestor, the grandchild of 2nd edition. And I still maintain that thought, that this is 2nd edition. And remember, 1st edition was very gritty, very satanic. Love that. As a priest, I find that hilariously funny. And so, 1st edition was raw. There were little nipples in the images and stuff like that, and you're like, oh my gosh, this is so modern. It was great. It was free. Gygax just went nuts and just wrote the damn thing, and it again, a seminal work. I'm not a Moldvay guy. I got into AD&D. I recently commented on some post, and I said that Moldvay, to me at the time, and I didn't know the names, I just saw Redbox, and I just thought, this is something kids play. No, I'm playing AD&D. I'm not, why would I dumb myself down and not move up? Why wouldn't I go to the best, which I thought was AD&D, instead of this simplicity crap? 2nd edition just dumbed everything down so that it kind of whitewashed stuff. 2nd edition was basically a way to kind of pretty up a very gritty game, and in some ways I think 5th did that. 5th became the let's be as accessible as possible. Let's get back to the roots. And I love the roots. At the time, I wasn't really very conscientious of the negatives of 2nd edition. I thought 2nd edition was great at the time. But, it's awesome. But it's got some... I played this to death, and my copy is fallen apart, literally fallen apart. You all have a copy of this one. I'm sure you do. This is the let's fall apart. Let's give you crap, because Wizards of the Coast knows that they can get away with bloody murder. So, the Player's Handbook, D&D 5th edition. Everybody loves it. Everybody's playing it. Most popular system ever, of all time. What food is it like? I don't know what the American equivalent of this is. This is the Canadian Chinese. If you're Canadian, you know what I'm talking about. If you're American, maybe. You got your chicken balls. You got your fried rice. If you add on some of the later books, then maybe you've upgraded to the Thai noodles. You have, oh, I don't know, you've got your sweet and sour pork, and that's been fried, and it's put in a sugary sauce, like the plum sauce and the cherry sauce. The cherry sauce has to go with those chicken balls, and then you got like, and then you've got your either chow mein, but you've got something that resembles chicken, and you know that it's a boil in a bag thing. So this is like the Canadian Chinese that I grew up with. It's sweet. It'll fill you up for about an hour, and then you'll want something else. It's not real Chinese food. It's boil in a bag. It's candy. It's candy food. You might think that you're eating something fancy. You spent your $70 on that Chinese meal. You know, you brought it home, you fed the family, you got enough food to feed the family the next day because, of course, it's Chinese food. But remember, this isn't real Chinese food. This is what North Americans think Chinese food is. And it's the old adage of you're going to be full, and then you're going to want to eat something substantial about an hour and a half later. But you're going to have so much leftovers, and you're going to look at it in your fridge, and you're going to say, I need to settle for something, so I'm going to have this the next day because I friggin' paid a whole shit ton of money for it before. 5th edition, Wizards of the Coast, Hasbro Special, Canadian Chinese. Excuse me. Nibiru. I fell in love with Nibiru because of Gone. This is a book. It just kicks, I'm expecting the latest cover, and of course, because of my 50-plus-year-old mind, I can't remember the name of it. Anyway. I bought the expansion to Nibiru. Look up Nibiru. It is such a good game, and it's something that's not advertised enough. It is so imaginative and so wonderful, and bizarre. Is it OSR? Not in the least. It's a storytelling game. It's a narration game where you sit around the table. Can you solo this? No. This needs friends. This needs people to be around. What is it like? Holy camole. And it's not camole. Nibiru is exotic. And it's something to be shared. You know what Nibiru is? I think Nibiru is, keeping on the Oriental theme, Nibiru is a true dim sum. Nibiru is a true dim sum. It's a bunch of small little plates that you can choose, and usually dim sum, for the most part, are dumplings filled with different textures, exotic textures. Some are creamy. You look at the wrapping, and it can be a kind of weird yellowish, goldish color. And then you have dumplings that you're familiar with, but you can't really tell what's inside of them. What are those sticky buns? And if you go to a real Chinese restaurant on a Sunday morning, I know when church is, But like you care, but you go to a proper dim sum, like I'm thinking about in my mind Montreal, which is my experience, but I'm sure that you may have experienced this. The servers go around with little carts and you choose them and you pay for each individual item, and you have kind of a, it's kind of guesswork because a lot of it, they'll tell you what it is, but you really don't know what it is. But when you eat it, the textures, the flavors are so exotic, so different, that you start to fall in love with what is really, really good and exotic because you've never tasted these things before. But then at the same time, you're learning a new experience in a completely different way. And if you go to a proper Chinatown, or you go to China, which I haven't, it's a foreign language. This is a new language, and it's worth spending money on. This is great. This is the dim sum of role-playing games. Before I move to the next one, which is Coriolis, and I'm gonna throw in as Zweihander. I looked at it. I looked at it long and hard. All, what is it, 700 pages of it? Maybe even more. I was at a Indigo or a Chapters, whichever one I remember going to. My coffee's empty. And I looked at Zweihander and I thought to myself, oh, I gotta get this. This is awesome. And I looked at it at the bookstore. And I kept on looking at it. And I kept on realizing that this wasn't for me. And it wasn't for me for a whole bunch of reasons. But I think if I'm comparing Zweihander to food, it's kind of like going to a cruise ship buffet. That's what Zweihander was for me as I looked through it and investigated. Is cruise ship buffet. It looks great. Everything looks wonderful. And you go around, and we used to go to a buffet, and my father used to put on so much stuff on his plate. We had pictures at my parents' place of these mounds of food of all sorts of different types, and so many different flavors, so many different tastes. And my father was chowing down, and everything just blends into one taste at the end. It looks great, but you end up afterward bloated and feeling heavy and wondering, what the hell did I just do? And I think for me, that's what Zweihander could have been. I haven't played it. I don't own it. And I own the PDF. I own the PDF. And I did look through it. And I've never played it. I've never soloed it. I've never gone back to looking at the PDF. It's in my drive-through RPG library, and I have absolutely no interest because I know that if I start, there is a chance that I'll become sick afterwards. Just, well, kind of like cruise ship food. Cruise ship buffet food. That's what Zweihander is. Coriolis, not in the least. Free League knocks it out of the park all the time, and I'm a bit of a fanboy, I must say. Coriolis just has something special. It has all these excellent exotic elements, and I would say that Coriolis, for me, Coriolis is I wouldn't say it's exotic, and I'm trying to think of a kind of space theme type of food, but I don't want to go Jetson style, and I don't want to go anything that's pedestrian, because there's a lot of meat in Coriolis. There's a lot. Oh, I know what it's like. Coriolis is like pork belly in a soy sauce base. Sweet mirin soy sauce, maybe infused with fennel bulb. It has been reducing for hours. And the pork belly, we're not talking about streaky bacon. We're talking about thick chunks of pork belly that, you know, like a kilogram, cut up. You can look it up, Google kilos, into pounds. You can chunk it and just let it, you know, fry it up, put it in this wonderful liquor, and allow it to just absorb and dissolve. And put it on rice. It is so complex, so dense and wonderful. And it might be a bit exotic for you. You may not have had this pork belly in a Japanese style, but it is incredible. And I would say that this is that. I forget the name of it off the top of my head, but it's a Japanese pork belly that's been simmered or braised in pork belly that's been braised in this kind of soy mirin kind of mixture. And let's just say that we're infusing this with fennel, with fennel bulb. Absolutely. Well, now, Godbound. Godbound. Stars without number. Worlds without number. If you don't have these 3 books in your library, you are doing yourself a disservice. But they're basically the same. I've even got Scarlet Heroes. You've listened to Ben Milton go on about Kevin Crawford, and you've heard other people talk about Kevin Crawford. That this set of different books are insanely good to have in your library. They're good to have in your library because they are really special. And I'm going to say, in my house growing up, a very kind of WASP house, white Anglo-Saxon Protestant, though Anglicans are Catholics. Anyway, these, to me, are kind of like the foods that I had at Christmas and Easter and Thanksgiving. They're the turkey and stuffing and cranberry sauce, and we didn't have stuffing in kind of stuff the bird, and we didn't deep fry our bird. We did it the British way, the proper way. We roasted it, and we had a wonderful way of basting it. We had a baster. And so we had sausage stuffing that was on the side that we cooked separately, and it's very easy. It's about a pound, about a pound of sausage meat with chopped up celery and chopped up onion, and say 2 stalks of celery, 1 onion. Chop it up relatively fine. You can saute it. You can put it in raw, and you put that in and we're talking about sausage meat. We're not talking about sausages. If you buy the breakfast sausages, they're the best ones, the pork ones, and you can squeeze them out of their casings, or you can buy the meat. Maple Leaf makes it here in Canada. You just buy a log, you throw that in, and then you get like a loaf of bread that may be on its way out. and you chunk it up into little cubes. And you throw that in, and then you get your hands and you mush it all up, and then you call somebody because your hands are all greasy. You call someone and you load in, I'm not joking, 3 to 4 tablespoons of sage. Put it in a pan. Don't put it thin, it burns or gets hard. Put it in a tureen dish. Yeah, a fucking tureen dish. Okay, so you know, about say about 6 centimeters deep, about 3 inches. You don't you want to have a little bit of depth, and you want it. Yeah, it's, oh my gosh, that's great stuffing. These books have so many different elements. You've got turnip in your potato because you've boiled the turnip and then you've thrown in the potato, and you have mash, and you have and maybe you've thrown in some chives in there and sour cream, and you've got carrots and turnips. Maybe you have separate turnips. You have squash. These are the festive meals that are roasts. They are timeless. You think that they're going to take a lot of time. You think that they're going to take a lot of time, except for Scarlet Heroes, which we may talk about separately. But each one of them is a festive meal that is just so... It's comforting, it's reminiscent, and yet it always seems to be new, and it makes you happy because it reminds you of good times. I think that these trilogies of Kevin Crawford's work, Worlds Without Number, Stars Without Number, and Godbound, are the traditional festive meals of say North America. These are the meals that you just love, but they're festive and familiar, and yet you don't have them that often, but they're so damn satisfying. And they have all the building blocks. Veggie. You've got some fruit in there with the cranberry sauce. You've got all the different elements. You've got protein, and you've got everything. Oh man. Scarlet Heroes, of course, as I've said, is part of that, but this is really solo, and I'm really debating what I want to do solo. The only reason why I haven't jumped into playing Thousand Islands, I didn't bring it out because it's not a system, but I've got all of those books. Thousand Islands. Thousand Islands is... I know they're from Malaysia, but it's like a Thai curry. Reach of the Roach God, their new book, a kind of world book, I would say is like a Thai curry, maybe a green curry with wonderful green curry paste, with 2 cans of coconut, and throw in obviously slice some onions, throw in some oil, whatever oil you prefer. Maybe you want to go for ghee, but that's a little bit that's a little bit desi there. But you throw in some fat, and you do up your onions, and then you're going to load in your spices, and your spice basically comes in a wonderful paste, and I think a green curry paste, and not put in like 8 tablespoons. You want that sucker hot and spicy, and you cook that up, and then you throw in 2 cans of coconut milk. Don't use cream. You think you're using something good. You milk, and then put in a couple of cups of good chicken stock. Let that come to a simmer, and you know what? Throw in some fish sauce, good amount of fish sauce, maybe 4 or 5 tablespoons of fish sauce, and squid brand. And throw in as well some wonderful kaffir leaves, fresh kaffir leaves if you can get them, lime leaves. Throw those in, about 5. And as it's simmering, you want to throw in chicken and let that cook. Slice that sucker thin as you can. Take some chicken breasts. I use 4 for that amount of liquid. Cut that up, throw it in. Now, I've already used some shrimp paste. I've already put in about 3 sticks of lemongrass and sauteed that up. You want, easily 5, 6 cloves of garlic and 2 or 3 tablespoons of ginger. That's all in that beginning stuff. If you know how to cook, you know what to do. And then afterwards, as it starts coming to a simmer, give it about 5 minutes before the ending of it. You're not talking long for that chicken, maybe 20 minutes in a simmer. So say around the 15-minute mark, you throw in some red pepper, Thai curry. Put it on noodles. Don't put it on rice. Put it on noodles and get some proper Chinese noodles. Shandong noodles are the best. Scarlet Heroes. It's like the others, but this has got some heat to it. It's got some power to it. This is going to keep you going. You're going to keep on coming back to this because you're going to say, oh my gosh, that's an amazing friggin' curry. Oh my gosh, that just tastes so good. I want more. I want to add different things to it. Next time, I'm going to make it with eggplant, those small little purple, thin like eggplants. And I'm going to dice that. Don't dice it too thin and put it in, like, don't let it cook in the very beginning. Throw it in about 5-10 minutes before the end of the cook. You don't want it to turn to mush. And you want exotic flavors. Scarlet Heroes is a wonderful Thai curry, a true Thai curry, and use good Thai ingredients. Don't settle for your blue whatever packages, the stuff that you can buy anywhere for the Thai stuff. No. Get good ingredients. Don't get that, whatever it's called, the crappy Thai sauce. Get squid. It's called squid. Yeah. Dungeon Crawl Classics. Dungeon Crawl Classics. It's super thin. It's just amazing. And I would say that this is more along the lines of, and this is the quick start rules. So this is just the easy peasy quick start rules. I got this on Free RPG Day, and I'm thinking of getting the book. This would be a sandwich that you've made. This is a mortadella type of sandwich. This has some meat to it. You fried up mortadella. Don't put raw mortadella. Fry up that mortadella. Fry it up for a little bit. Don't put your heat higher than, say, 5 on the stove out of, say, 8 or 10. You want it at a medium, a little bit higher than medium. Put it on a nonstick pan. Fold it up into, mortadella comes in a circle. Fold it up into quarters. Throw it in. Throw in about, 5 to 8 slices. Fry it up and get some provolone cheese. And you put that on that, and you've got a good proper Kaiser bun. Maybe one you've made yourself. Maybe a fresh Kaiser. Make sure it's fresh. And put that sucker under the grill. And once you get the meat, put it on the bread, toast it a little, put it inside, let it grill for a good couple of minutes. Let there be some color onto that cheese, and then put on some mayo or whatever. Maybe you want piri-piri sauce. This is a proper sandwich. And even though it seems like you're just having a sandwich, no, you're having something special. Dungeon Crawl Classics is ever so slightly more exotic. You think that you're getting something basic, but you're getting something that is much more than just your deli sandwich or your kind of regular old Wonder Bread sandwich. We are moving toward the end. I've got 3 more books after this one. Electric Bastion Land. Oh my goodness. I got this because, you know, and it says color. Yeah, yeah. That there's like 30 cents worth of yellow in this book. Literally, 30 cents worth of yellow in this book. The cover is awesome. This is a great book to have in your library. This just comes up with character concepts. I mean, even if you just want to do something in a science fiction world and you just want to kind of go nuts, this is great. You roll, you know, a D100 and you come up with just amazing things. So random. Street performer number 57, adored by few, loathed by many. You know, you're a dabber, or your name is Dabber, or Muttonarrow. And you've got a debt. You start off, if you're the youngest player at the table, you start with a debt. And maybe you've got magic tricks with the deck of magic cards. What's your act? What do you get? You get a staff, a D6 staff with a floppy cap. And what's your claim to fame? Say a 4. Your performance only really works when you're drunk. Chris McDowell does some amazing things. I love Into the Odd. I've got Into the Odd, and for some reason I didn't drag it out. Electric Bastion Land, deeper Into the Odd. Into the Odd and Electric Bastion Land are, oh my. For some people, I think they're sushi. And we're not talking, and I no disrespect to Koreans. This is not your Korean sushi. Korean sushi is wonderful, and we have a wonderful Korean sushi place here where I live. An hour and a half away is actually close. So, and that's not 30 kilometers because of traffic. That's going about 140 on the highway straight during rush hour. Rush hour where I live is a joke. So there's no one. Our population is the size of some suburbs in some towns for the entire area. So yeah, it's kind of like proper Japanese sushi, where you're just unsure what all the ingredients are, but it tastes amazing, and it is extravagant and exotic. The difference between Korean and Japanese sushi is Korean sushi tends, I don't mean to offend, tends to be all, it's kind of like crab, a lot of crab, and it's got some wonderful flavors to it. It's got amazing, you know, it's got unagi sauce, so you've got eel sauce, and I mean, so does the Japanese, but they've got some wonderful flavors with the mayonnaises, you know, the sriracha type of mayonnaise and stuff, and so does the Japanese. But it's not as, to me, it's not as exotic as having, you know, octopus in sushi, eel. Now, I'm used to sushi and I love every bit of it. And if you want to have a real, you want to know what this is, I'll tell you what. Okay, so Into the Odd is sushi. Electric Bastion Land is sushi made with uni. Uni. If you know what uni is, you are a special type of person, and you can leave a comment below and say, I know what it is, and it is mind-blowingly amazing. It's sea urchin. Now, sea urchin is this yellow, well, first of all, it's a spiky kind of ball that's pretty much everywhere around ocean areas. And of course, and you smash it open, and inside you take basically the sex glands, and it oh my god, it's this yellow pungent smell that's just wonderful, and it's musky and sexy, and it's amazing. And if you haven't had uni, sea urchin, you are missing one of the most delightful foods in the world. It is, you look at it and you smell it and you haven't tasted it yet, and you might go, oh my gosh. And the texture may be, but man, oh man, having sushi with uni on top. Sushi can be one of those weird things. Maybe you don't like raw fish or the idea of raw fish and eating raw fish, but you know what? It is amazing. And this is the sushi of role-playing games. And so is Into the Odd. I don't know where the hell it is and why I didn't bring it out. It must be in my second shelf. The One Ring. The One Ring. The One Ring is relatively new. I just got the Strider PDF. I did not Kickstart it. I try to avoid Kickstarter as much as possible just because I don't want hits and misses. I've been burnt a couple of times with some misses where I've bought a game, board games generally, and it's like, yeah, it's nice and all, but when am I going to bloody well play it? I've got the bigger, I've shown it in a recent video, but here's The Hobbit. And I've had this forever. And so this is The Hobbit, and right next to it, of course, I have showed it to you, but I might as well show it to you again because it's right on my shelf. I'm going to break my arm, but here is my Lord of the Rings. It's got some dust on it, sadly. All 1,163 pages. It made an impact on me when I was a kid. I think it did for anybody who read it. The movies, I was an adult and had kids at the time when the movies came out, and I just thought that Peter Jackson was a genius. I didn't feel that he fucked it up. I think he did a great job. I think that the New Zealand setting was inspired. And whether it's the books or whether it's the movies, it has captured the imagination just like it did Gygax. The One Ring is familiar. The One Ring has, I believe, a relatively good system, but it needs depth. Let Saba, who is German, by the way, and not Swedish, did a wonderful review of it. You should watch Let Saba's review. And he said he wanted more depth to it because the world, and I think that it's going to be coming out slowly but surely, the Strider solo play rules that are done by Sean Tompkin and Matt Click, who are really Sean Tompkin, and both of them are the main pushes behind Ironsworn and Starforged, which is a Powered by the Apocalypse system, which if you don't know about it, you've been under a rock. But this has great growing potential if you like to use things that are already established. I have Dune, and I didn't bring Dune out. Dune's still in my cupboard. I play tested it or beta tested it, and I had mixed reviews, which I told the creators about, but I did buy it. I can't even think at the moment off the top of my head what Dune is. I'd have to kind of dissect it a bit, but it is on my shelf. One Ring. If you're buying into a system, a world that's already been created, and it's got its depth, and it's iconic, kind of like Faerun, right? I mean, it's iconic. Or Greyhawk, you know, it's well developed, it's well thought. But Faerun is like over the top, right? I mean, Faerun makes Lord of the Rings, look like Peter Rabbit. Okay, so I mean there's so much depth to Faerun that you go into it and you can swim in it and get overwhelmed. The same can be true for the Lord of the Rings. but the One Ring as a game, as a system, as a world, there's a lot that Free League has done with this that's just good stuff. I like the way that they've done the cultures. I love the way that they're dealing with scenes, and the Lore Master, yeah, I like that. There's a lot of good kind of acknowledgments, homages, nods. The prancing ponies in there. You know, you just have familiar places, and so it's a very familiar, very comfortable thing. And maybe I'm trying to think of something that would be good for this. The One Ring, to me, in terms of a meal, all right, I have to use a Montreal image because there's no way around it for me. There's this place on Dakari in Sherbrooke. It's called Chalet Barbecue. And maybe you have a place like this. Growing up as a kid, it was the place where people, you know, you'd have, like, they'd order this food in. So not Chinese. It's barbecue chicken. Rotisserie chicken. They have like, they have basically 4 things on the menu. They have rotisserie chicken, fries, gravy, and coleslaw. That's basically it. And they haven't changed since like the 40s or the 50s or whatever. That's their special, that's what they do. And when I moved into the area, I was a big hockey fan. I'm no longer a hockey fan. It's gone way too businesslike. Now I watch the Premier League. And as a Canadian, that's a very rare thing. People don't generally, you know, especially, you know, second generation Canadians are not kind of interested too much in what's going on with European football. But I watched the Premier League, and I watched the Bundesliga and Liga and La Liga and Serie A and the Champions League, and I'm a big football fan, and so when I watched hockey, I watched it as obsessively as I do now. And I grew up in Montreal, and so I'm a Habs fan, and as I was growing up, because I'm in my 50s, every year the Canadians would win the cup. And so in the 90s, when I was married, or as I had children at that point, I would invite all of my friends to come over to my apartment, my small apartment, and we'd watch the playoffs every friggin' night for 2 months. Seriously. And we'd order out. I don't know how I got so large. And this was one of our favorite places. Chalet Barbecue. But we'd have it probably 3 times a week. It was awesome and familiar, and the gravy was the best gravy, and the French fries were the best French fries, and the chicken was so moist and yet crispy, and the way it was roasted, it's the best. And maybe growing up, wherever you are in the world, there's some type of place where the food is made for you, and it's an establishment of your culture. It's established. And it may not be overly complex, but there is a complexity to it, and it is familiar and satisfying, and you just love it, and you probably could eat it every day if you really wanted to. This is not your McDonald's or your Wendy's or your whatever, you know, Americans. This is not your kind of, we're taking over the world place. This is a place that's local. This is not a franchise. This does not have a franchise. This is a one. This is a unique place that does things on their own, by themselves, and they've perfected what they do. Whether it's a food court in the Philippines, or whether it's, you know, on the high street in Sweden or in England, this is your familiar shop that the food is just so good you don't know what you're missing. And you tell all of your friends, if you've moved away from home, this is something you need. This is going to be good for you, and it's going to build and build, and you're going to realize if you don't have it, you're going to miss it. I think that's what this is. 2 more books, and they're not in any order. I just pulled them off my shelf. Frills. Oh my goodness, Frills. The imagination of going into the 19th century kind of post-industrial age or middle industrial age, a time when there's trains but yet there's no telephones. You're dealing with an age of transition. You're dealing with an age where we think we've got our act together. We think we know what we're doing. We've got it. We're enlightened. We're not talking about the fake enlightenment of the 18th century and the 17th century. This isn't intellectualism. We are now. We're building. We're builders. We're laying down tracks. We're making life faster. We're abusing the poor even more than we already were. This is a time where fairy tales are fairy tales. Just imagination. And this takes that, turns it on its head and says, you don't got your shit together. There are things that are out there that are beyond imagination. And I love it. There's a horror element to it. There's a Cthulhian element to it that's not Cthulhian. I don't have any Cthulhian games. I know that there are those of you who love the Cthulhu mythos, and hey, yeah, it's scary as shit, and yeah, but it's loaded with Nazism and a whole bunch of other crap that I just, and I'm not I preach in my work. I'm trying not to preach in this. I just, you know, I just don't believe in supporting something that comes from someone so devastatingly broken that it is within the texts. And I know I'm going to get comments, but I'm not a Cthulhu-y type of guy. Let's put it that way. This is a nice replacement for that kind of inherent racism that's there, you know, maybe not in Cthulhu itself. I think that it's there in the background of his paranoia. But this is kind of like reimagining Cthulhu in a time where you've got all the, to use a Japanese time frame, Meiji type of atmosphere. And there's a wonderful Meiji period PDF that you can search on Drive-Thru RPG. And the name escapes me, but Vaesen is a Nordic horror role-playing. I think it's the setting is Uppsala, or Uppsala. Don't know the pronunciation. And it's wonderful, man. Oh man, it's wonderful. This is great stuff. This is not your IKEA food. No. There's nothing scary about wonderful meatballs covered in a nice light gravy. Remember, it's thick, but it's light in color. Yeah, this isn't your IKEA meal, so I'm not going to do that. This is, oh man, it's got that fairy element, it's got a horror element. There's an exoticism to it. You know what? This is kind of Ottoman in some ways. You know, I'm thinking about the Orient Express and stuff. So I'm thinking about Constantinople, Istanbul. So well, this is like Simic. Well, yeah. Well, is it? Yeah, I'm just going to go for it. It's like Simic. What's Simic? Oh my gosh. Simic is kind of like bagels, but it's not bagels. Bagels are boiled. Simic is not boiled. Simic is a bread that is in the shape of a bagel. It's circular. You form two lines with your dough, and then you twist it, and then you fold it into a circle. And you're thinking, well, that's pretty basic. And I guess in a way, this is kind of basic. But once you do that, and of course you've let it rise and do everything that regular bread does, and it's a slightly wet dough, you're kneading it for a good 8 minutes. So this is you want it strong. It's a strong dough. But you're twisting it, you got it around, you've got these things, you've let them rise a bit more for a second rise, and then you dip them in mulberry or grape molasses. Molasses. You have to cut it with some water. And if you're using something other than grape molasses, you might need to add some sugar. Dissolve it in some hot water. Don't put grains of sugar, for God's sake. Make a simple syrup. Just put it on the stove with, like, I don't know, quarter a cup of water and maybe a tablespoon of sugar, and just let that dissolve on medium heat. Let it add it to the already cut mulberry molasses, or whatever pomegranate molasses, and if you have grape molasses, that's great. Remember, cut it with water. There's lots of YouTube videos. And then you dip it completely so that it's completely covered in that molasses sweetness. That's the fairy element. It's a grape molasses? What the hell are you talking about? What are you talking about? Mulberry molasses or pomegranate molasses? It's there. It's wonderful. You got to do it. And then you put it on, and then you dredge it. Not in flour. You dredge it in sesame seeds, roasted sesame seeds. And we're not talking about a couple of tablespoons. We're talking about an entire jar, or a good amount of sesame seeds. You throw those, and then you do each one. You make about 12 of them. Simic is amazing. It's wonderful. It's bready. It's got a lot of heft to it, and you can serve it with feta, and you just rip it if it's fresh, and it's a very robust meal in and of itself. You just have some cheese with it. Maybe you have it with some pickled turnips. Maybe you have it with some cream cheese. It's just a lovely comfort, but there's an element of scariness to it because of this sweetness. Is it going to taste good? Is it going to be okay? It's sticky. Anybody who has sticky hands, you get sticky hands. Does that not drive you crazy when you've got something and you kind of, even donuts, you grab a donut and you're eating your donut and then your hands are sticky and you're like, I'm going to go fucking nuts if I don't clean that stickiness off my hands. Well, the Simic can be like that. You know, you've got a little bit. So it's that annoyance. It's that, Is there a fear to this? Well, I didn't choose a food that's kind of scary, but you might think that having Turkish Simic is scary. Just, you know, even the thought of making it. And no, it's not that scary. This is a great book. This is awesome. Last one. At least the last one that I have time for, and I'm starting to look scary just with my hair and my robe, and the fact that the sun is up, and the fact that now it's, holy crap, it's late. Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay. Yeah. I think this is the 4th edition. This has a lot of steps. There's a lot to this. There's a lot to this. But it is so wonderful. And to not give this a German treatment would be doing it a disservice. This is sauerkraut that's made with store-bought sauerkraut. You know, it's either in a can, in a jar. You can buy it in Bics sauerkraut. But don't just serve that. No, no, no. This isn't your basic canned sauerkraut that you stick into a pot or a microwave. God, don't use the microwave. And you heat it up. No, no, no. This is a sauerkraut that you've put into a large pot. And then you've added an equal amount of water to it. And you've added cloves to it. About half a teaspoon. And you got about, you know how you only use 1 bay leaf for spaghetti sauce? You get like 10 bay leaves. And you crush them up. And you put them in a tea ball. Or muslin. And you tie it up. And you infuse the crap out of that. And you put that in. And you bring it to a nice a gentle boil. And you put in maybe a tablespoon of peppercorns. And you throw in an onion. Maybe you throw in some bay leaves. Maybe you get the onion and maybe you get the fresh bay leaves and you stick in some whole cloves and you put that in. And you put in a cup of wine. And then you get some caraway seeds. If you like caraway seeds, put in a lot. If you don't put in a lot. Maybe a teaspoon, maybe 2 teaspoons, 2 teaspoons. Put in some chicken stock or vegetable stock. Just a bit. You know, I usually get it and throw it into a thing, and I put some hot water on it, and I just swirl it around, and then I add it to that rest of the water that I've already used. Just to give it some fortification, give it a little bit of umami, a little bit more. You know what? Dice some bacon. If you have a German butcher, get ham or bacon and a good amount, and slice your onions and saute them. Throw those in. Bring it to that, keep it on that simmer and stir it around and leave it for 2 hours. Just make sure it doesn't run dry. 2 hours. 2 hours. Yeah, that's store-bought Bics. You can turn that into something amazing. Do you have juniper berries? You should have juniper berries. Get some juniper berries at your spice shop. Throw in another teaspoon, maybe even a tablespoon if you like gin, and throw that in. Oh man. And then get some good quality German sausages. Score them. Just slight little scores. Maybe you have one of those George Foreman presses. Grill it for a couple of minutes, put in some color, and then throw it into the sauerkraut. And let that cook for about 30 minutes. Don't fry up your sausages and just fry them. Just give them a little bit of color. Maybe if you've scored them a little bit, just fry them up in some olive oil. Just a few minutes each side just to give it some color. Throw them in, cook them for 30 minutes inside. And we're not talking about like 2 or 3. We're talking about throwing about 15 sausages into this large pot. Get an enamel pot. If you haven't got an enamel pot, you're, again, just like not having these games, you're doing yourself a disservice. And you know, make some Schwabian potatoes. Or make some really nice mash. I gave you a nice little recipe for mash before. Do some mash. Or make dumplings. Now you could do spatzel. There's another one, and the word escapes me, but they're thicker. They are amazing. I think they're from the Swabian region, but they're like this thick, and they're beautiful dough potato dumplings. Potato with some flour. About 1 kilo of potatoes to 300 grams of flour. You mix that up with your hand, you salt it, and you add a general, well, we're not talking about a little bit of nutmeg. We're talking about half a teaspoon to a teaspoon of nutmeg. That's a lot of nutmeg. Make you go blind. And just knead the crap out of that. And then roll it. And then just shape it into little crescents. Boil it up until it floats to the top. And then fry them. Fry them in bacon fat. Fry them just, yeah, man oh man. This is a wonderful German sausage meal. It is complex. Takes a lot of time. Look at what I've described in terms of the cooking time. Takes a lot of time, but man, you will not have tasted anything as authentic and as unique as cooking your store-bought sauerkraut and adding all those extra things and going the extra little mile. Add in some applesauce in that wonderful 2-hour-long process of making the sauerkraut. Add some applesauce. You want some sweetness. Maybe even a teaspoon of white sugar, just basic sugar. You will be amazed. Well, that's my library in a very long recording. Have fun, enjoy yourselves, and thanks for watching this early morning with me, with nothing fancy, just me giving a chat, messy hair, no shave, didn't even brush my teeth. Have a great day. Bye.